How's it going, everybody? Week 5 is in the books, and we're here once again for the Week 5 weekend recap, going over everything that we got right and got wrong from the Best Buys article last week, as well as a cash game lineup recap and review how I did this weekend in cash games. So it was kind of a weird week. We had some value. We knew what we were going to go after. We knew which prime players we wanted to go after, and it looked early in the week like it was going to be a Stars and Scrubs week based on the value that we had, the obvious value that we had. I'm going to go through all of them. Some of our plays hit, some of our plays missed, some of our plays got injured. So we're going to look at where the process was right, where the process was wrong, and where we got lucky or unlucky throughout this week. So let's take a look right now at the Best Buys article. Let's just go straight through that. You guys can see the chat going crazy in the black on black. I just added that for you guys that watch this on YouTube and Facebook, because you don't get to participate in the chat if you're watching this on demand unless you're watching it on twitch.tv. So I added the chat to that black on black screen so that you guys can follow along on the Friday Q&A and the Sunday morning show if you're watching that on demand. So let me know how you like that. Throw a note in the comments down below and smash that like button. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Facebook, please like the page. Thank you very much for being a part of this. We're going to go through this every single week. So let's look at it right now. Obviously, you can see this is the Best Buys article. It's an insider piece. So if you want to read it, you got to be an ESPN insider. But as the week expires and the article kind of expires itself, we can look back at it. And this is a very important part of my process every single week. So let's start with Aaron Rodgers. The quarterbacks basically all hit. You know, it's pretty simple. Aaron Rodgers, 24 points. This was as sure a thing to me as anything. Aaron Rodgers was going to have a big day. Mid-20s points. He hit his average. He didn't top 30, but this was pretty much a lock, especially against the Cowboys. Ended with 221 yards, which was very low. I thought he would get at least close to, if not breaking, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 24 DraftKings points. Carson Palmer going east in the morning, 15.6 points for 5.9K. Didn't kill you, missed value by like 2.5 points, right? You're looking for just about 18 points from him. He got you 15.6, didn't hurt you that bad. 291 with a touchdown. If he tops 300, he beats value and you're happy. If he throws one more touchdown pass, he beats value and you're happy. The game flow was in your favor if you rostered him because they got behind early. Brian Hoyer, though, the player that we were saying all week was the guy that you kind of have to roster in cash based on the matchup, based on the price, based on the weapons that he has at his disposal. 353 yards, 2 touchdowns, 25.1 DraftKings points. I was saying Sunday morning on the Anti-Tinkercast that we really only needed about 14 points from him, and the path to 14 points is very easy. He had about 5.5 at halftime. People were getting reckless in my mentions for absolutely no reason, considering that, you know, the amount of plays you run in the second half kind of pick up. You paid 4.7K for this guy, and he was on pace, basically, to have between 12 and 14 points, which is what you were looking for anyway. He goes off, hauls off, has a huge second half, and just blows it out the water. Intriguing for tournaments. Dak Prescott, the highest scoring QB of the week, 30.74. Josh McCown basically reached value at 14.46 points, so I'm fine with him. Cover boy for the week, Le'Veon Bell, because of the volume that he was going to get, and he still got that volume even though he was underutilized for the Steelers this week. 25 touches, 15 carries, 10 catches on 10 targets. Okay, did not break 100 yards, ended the day with 19.3 points. At the time that they were winning by 2, whatever the score was, I can't remember because it was a funky score. Right before Ben threw a pick 6 and then Ben threw another pick 6, Le'Veon Bell, against the worst rushing defense in the league, had 10 carries. And Ben had thrown the ball 38 times. This was not a process error. This was a game planning error. This was whether they went in saying we're going to beat them by passing it, throwing against 2 of the best cornerbacks in the league and a good pass defense when we have one of the best rushing weapons in the NFL, and we're going to use our quarterback to try and throw it against this really stout pass defense. That was a process error on the Steelers' behalf that we could not have possibly predicted, but we did get the 21 touches that we needed. We did get just under 20 points from Le'Veon Bell. The floor was most certainly there, and if they had just gone according to the script, which is keep pounding Le'Veon Bell the way that and we'll get to this, the way that the Cowboys kept pounding Ezekiel Elliott, we would have had a much different output. Again, Ezekiel Elliott, 30 touches on the day, 29 carries, 116 yards, no touchdown. Dak had the rushing ones. And so did Beasley, caught 2 short ones. 1 catch on 2 targets for 16 yards, 17.2 DraftKings points. So if you paired these two, would you have overpaid for the points that you got? Yes. But would you have walked out of there with 35 points in cash, 36.5 points in cash? Yes, you would have. And would that have hurt you? Hell no, it would not have. So piling up volume at running back, paying up for that volume at running back is a strategy that's been one that I've utilized every single week in cash moving forward. And we talked about on Friday and Sunday morning how if you wanted to be different from the crowd this week, instead of spending that, $18K on running backs for your RB1 and RB2 spot, spend $12 or $14K. And that would be a great route to go in GPPs because it would allow you access to pay up for guys at wide receiver where everybody else is paying for running back, and you'd have a great day. Well, guess what? The 2 running backs that went off the most, Melvin Gordon and Leonard Fournette, were basically 6 and 7K. So there was your 13K that you could have spent to be 5K different from the crowd at RB1 and RB2, allowing you to spend up for guys like AJ Green or for Dez Bryant, as well as like AJ Green and stuff like that, to give yourself a differentiated lineup. And that's what worked in tournaments, obviously, because with as much of the crowd on them and them not both ending up, Zeke and Le'Veon Bell ending up with like 65 points, they ended up with like 35 points, which was less than Melvin Gordon had by himself. That makes for a great tournament play. And obviously, congratulations to Cal Spears from Roto-Grinders, the CEO, one of their co-founders, my old boss when I was at Roto-Grinders, taking down the Millie Maker yesterday on DraftKings. So welcome, just another member of the 2 Comma Club, Cal, even though you're probably already there many times over. Amir Abdullah, he busted 4.4 DraftKings points, 10 carries, 31 yards, got vultured on the goal line by Zach Zenner after a pass interference call in the end zone. It would have been nice to have that touchdown. Still wouldn't have reached value with it, but would have made it a little bit closer. Aaron Jones went bonkers in his debut, 125 yards and a touchdown against Cowboys for 23.4 points. Andre Ellington, 15.3. Wayne Gallman. This was my pivot this week in cash games, was to go to Wayne Gallman if Aldridge was not available, because it wouldn't have taken all that much for me to pivot to him. It wouldn't have had to change the entire lineup. It essentially would have been like a 2v2 or a simple 3v3 with, coming down at defense, going up to Gallman from 3,100, and then swapping out a wide receiver at the same price point for another wide receiver at a similar price point. So it really wouldn't have hurt at all, but we'll get to that when we get to the cash game on it, because when Orleans Darkwa was announced as a starter, I'm like, well, I can't start Gallman now because I don't know if he's going to play. And sure enough, Darkwa had a tremendous first drive, and then Gallman got all the work the rest of the way and still reached value at 3.9K. If they had never announced him as Darkwa as the starter, I would have been tilting for that first quarter of the Giants game, but I feel like my lineup would have been a lot better. Devontae Parker got injured. I'm not going to chalk this up to an L because you can't chalk injuries up to an L. You just get unlucky. Football is a brutal sport. Jaron Brown, I need one of these guys to be traded. I need John Brown and Jaron Brown to be traded because they're both numbers in the teens and they both have Jay Brown on the back of their jersey, and it's just a troll job every time we try to pick one. And this is the problem, because outside of Larry Fitzgerald, it's extremely difficult to pick out which guy is going to get the snaps and the targets and the red zone looks outside of Larry Fitzgerald. He's the only constant that we have in that Cardinals offense. So he ended the day with 6 targets, 3 catches, 39 yards, 6.9 DraftKings points, and the touchdown went to John Brown, not Jaron Brown. Aldridge Robinson, obviously off of our list completely after he was off the board after we found out that Marques Goodwin was available. Obviously, an easier pivot would have just been to go to Marques Goodwin, but I couldn't trust that in cash, knowing that he's been concussed 74 times in the last 26 days. He hasn't, but you know what I'm getting at. So just an impossible place to go there. Jordy ended the day with 10.4. Garcon had a tremendous first half, but only ended the day with 17.4 points for 6,100. That's not going to kill you. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who we had a meeting at halftime to kind of heal together. He worked out. The flow chart really hit once again this week in terms of tight ends. Are the Cleveland Browns playing? Does the team that they're playing employ a tight end? Use that tight end on DraftKings. ASJ 3,500 ends the day with 14.9 DraftKings points, 6 catches on 8 targets, 29 yards, and a touchdown. Antonio Gates, I was going to go with the guy with more volume. I did. He ended the day with 2 catches on 3 targets for 23 yards, and Hunter Henry got the 25-yard touchdown. So congratulations to those of you who paid up for Hunter Henry over the guy who had more volume going in. This was any team that has 2 tight ends against the Giants. Both of them are in play. We said it last week with O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. We said it this week with Antonio Gates and Hunter Henry. I went with Antonio Gates because I decided to pick a side. Delaney Walker, we said on the 0610 podcast. You can go check that video. I am okay with Delaney Walker if Mariota plays. Mariota did not play. We're off Delaney Walker. Defense is Detroit Lions. They definitely disappointed. Buffalo Bills, which is where we ended up in cash games, did just fine against Cincinnati, even though AJ Green kind of went bonkers. So let's switch over to the cash game lineup real quick. So here's what we had there. Let me get rid of that. Here's the 4-man game, because this is the easiest game I could pull up. Pete and I were very similar once again, and it's strange because Pete and I don't talk during the week, really. Outside of like doing the podcast or like, hey, what's up? Like, we don't talk about lineups. We don't strategize together. But we've been very similar for the last couple of weeks. So it's very interesting that we're along the same lines of thinking. Pete, one of the best cash game players in the history of daily fantasy. We can go over what his lineup was different from mine if you'd like after we get off the air. So I went with Brian Hoyer at quarterback. Great. I'm looking for 14 points to get 25. Le'Veon Bell, great. 19.3 points. Is it ideal? No, I would have preferred 30. Sure, but like 19 is never going to kill you. I went with Duke Johnson over Abdullah, and we talked about this on Sunday morning as well. Got bailed out with that late touchdown, but he did just fine. Otherwise, based on yardage and catches, he still would have had 11 point something points there as well. For 4.9, not killing you in cash. Dez Bryant is where I ended up. Randall Cobb, I wanted a lot of exposure to that afternoon game, but this is where I should have gotten off of Randall Cobb when Devontae Adams was healthy, because Aaron Rodgers does spread it around. And my problem is you can't predict where Aaron Rodgers is going to go with the ball all the time, especially when he has as many targets available to him as possible. He had all 3 wide receivers and Martellus Bennett healthy to him that day, and the rookie ran really, really well. Not surprisingly, he's a very good running back, or at least was in college at UTEP. Torrey Smith was the value player that I ended up going to. He caught a long touchdown. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, perfect. Todd Gurley, this was the big mess because I couldn't afford, once I came off of Aldridge Robinson, I could not afford the 8,800 to stay with Ezekiel Elliott because I had Belliot in my lineup here all week long, and I just couldn't afford to get there once I had to come off Gulman, because I had Le'Veon Bell, I had Gulman, who Duke Johnson was 4,900, Gulman 3,900, and I could have afforded to stay with Ezekiel Elliott. So this cost me a lot, as you can see, as the 17 points here, right, versus the 6 points here. That's 11 points. That puts me right there with CSU Ram for the 4-man. It also puts me in a much higher percentile because scoring is way down. 150 is our points target. If you remember the first 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks of last season, my cash game lineups, you can go back through Facebook. I would post a picture of my cash game lineup every week of last season, facebook.com/Al Smizzle. Go through my photos from last season. You can see my cash game lineups based on the pricing, when it was much looser pricing and you could afford a lot of high volume guys. I was scoring between 180 and 210 in cash. It was insane. I was on a ridiculous run, and the game was super easy based on the pricing. The game is less easy now based on the pricing, and it's forcing us to take chances on guys like Torrey Smith. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to get 8 targets here, I'm going to get 10 targets here, I'm going to get 12 targets here, I'm going to get 25 carries, 25 touches, 25 touches, 25 touches from my running back 1, running back 2, and flex. I'm going to get 7 or 8 targets from my tight end and quarterback. Who cares, because it's quarterback. You can't do that anymore. Without taking uncomfortable shots on guys like Torrey Smith, which is what's really bringing a lot of the cash game scores down. I ended the day with a 63rd percentile score at 129, which is absurd to me, considering that, like I said, the target for cash games used to be profitable on DraftKings was 150. Now you're telling me I can get a 63 with just under 130 points. I won 76 of my head-to-heads, lost 49 of them. And we're going to go back to work this week. I'm going to go back to my normal schedule. I'm glad to be back home. Tuesday's my research day. Wednesday is my writing day. Thursday is my content day. And Friday, we're going to get back to the Q&A with you guys right here, 3 p.m. Eastern time on twitch.tv/Al_Smizzle. And then once again, the Anti-Tinkercast on Sunday morning before lineups lock. Same process. I like my schedule. It keeps me in a rhythm, and it allows me to hopefully hit on as many plays as we hit in Best Buys this week. And really, hopefully, there isn't as much craziness with the top value play coming off the board and then the guy that I identified as the second best value play also coming off the board in Wayne Gulman. So hopefully week 6 gives us a little more consistency with the value, and it stays that way throughout the week. So hopefully you guys did well. Cal, once again, congratulations very much to you, sir, for winning the Millionaire Maker. Like I always say, if I don't happen to win a GPP, I hope that one of you guys do, and one of you guys did. Hopefully the rest of you guys did very well in your cash games and banked a tournament here or there as well. So until Friday, we'll see you on the Edge podcast. Stay tuned for On the Ball podcast, and make sure that you read the Week 6 Best Buys as well. Bye, everybody.